Hello world, welcome back to Raise Your RC. Want to shoot a video today talking about some upgrades and fixes I made to my Redcat Racing Piranha. If you haven't seen it already, I already have a review video you can check out. I paid $66 for this RC car from Amazon. Price fluctuates a lot, but I've been having fun with it. So I already did a shock tuning video about this truck to get a little more performance out of the shocks. And so the second round of upgrades is basically I upgraded the electronics and made some steering fixes because there are some just basic issues with the steering that I wanted to address. So if you haven't checked out those other videos, probably want to watch them first. But really the number one problem with this truck is that the steering isn't that great. So that's due to several different things. One is that the servo is super weak. It's a 3 kilogram servo, which is I think 41 inches of torque, which is way too low for something like this. So I upgraded the servo. The second thing is it has this really weak servo saver. I'm assuming because the servo is so weak, it needs a really mild servo saver. So fixing that will help quite a bit. And then the last thing is some steering geometry stuff I'll go over as well in this video. So I didn't really want to spend a whole lot of money on this truck. Since I paid so little for it, it obviously doesn't make sense to spend like $100 to $200 on electronics. But what I did was pull out some parts from my spare parts box. So I had a bunch of leftover RTR electronics, so I'll go over that real quick. So first thing I did was get a servo from my Arma Granite 4x4 BLX. So this is their 7 kilogram servo. I think it's called the ADS 7M. It's a metal gear servo. It's got over twice the power of the stock servo, twice the torque, so it works a little bit better. Also get rid of the servo saver and basically just running a Team Associated plastic servo horn in there, mated to that Arma servo. And so that servo horn's a little bit short. The stock one I think is 20 millimeters. This is a little bit shorter than that. I think it's like 17 or 18 millimeters. But it works okay, so that's fine. The second thing you'll want to do is if you change out your servo is get a better radio. And so the main problem with the stock radio is it does not have dual rate or endpoint adjustment. So basically it'll always try to go full left and full right farther than the wheels can actually travel. And so that'll actually put extra strain on your steering system, on your bell cranks, on your servo. So you really want a better radio with those adjustments, either dual rate or endpoint adjustment, if you're going to swap out that servo, especially if you're not running a servo horn. So changing out the servo actually made me change out the radio. So what I ended up doing is grabbing the radio from my Team Associated Pro SE10. So what comes with that kit is the Team Associated XP120. Pretty simple basic radio, but the main thing it's got is actually dual rate there for the steering, which is what you want. So I decided to upgrade my radio to another radio that I had lying around that wasn't being used. So got that, the Team Associated XP120. But what that meant was I had to change the ESC because on the stock Redcat Racing Piranha, the ESC and the receiver are one combo unit. So if you take out, you can't really take out the receiver without changing the ESC as well. So I ended up mounting the receiver there on the side of the ESC box. And then the ESC I'm using is actually this. This is a Traxxas XL5 brushed ESC, and it's high voltage, which means it actually can handle 3S power. So I'm still running 2S lipos, which is plenty enough juice for this type of vehicle. There's no slipper, it's got plastic gears in the transmission stuff. You don't really want to run too much power, but this is just a handy little brushed ESC I had lying around. So that came off of my Traxxas TRX4. So I got an Arma servo, a Traxxas ESC, a Team Associated receiver. It's all kind of a mishmash of parts, but they all work pretty well together. And so that's what I decided to change on the ESC. So the ESC fits fairly well in that ESC box. I did have to trim down this little plastic piece a little bit just to give a tiny bit of clearance for the heat sink. You don't have to do that, but it was kind of pushing up against that. So just makes it a little bit nicer there. And then I also had to trim off the on-off switch that comes on the stock ESC. And then the power button for the ESC is right there. So it can get a little bit difficult to get to if you are using your finger. So I just trimmed that back as well with a Dremel to get you some more clamps. So yeah, those are the electronics upgrades. Some stuff that did not work. I did try to run my Traxxas 2075 X servo in here, but that had a little hump that wouldn't allow it to sit flush on the chassis, so that didn't work. Also tried one of those I think it's Zosky or Animas 20 kilogram, like $18 servos on eBay, or I'm sorry, not eBay, on Amazon, but that was a little bit too long front to back. So really the only servo I found that would fit is this Arma servo. And then on the servo horn side, I tried looking for a servo saver that would fit, but really there's not a whole lot of clearance here, so the only thing I could find that would fit was just a regular plastic servo horn. So that's what I'm running. Hopefully that will hold up. I'm not running a servo saver, but this thing doesn't go that fast, so not a huge deal on that side. Okay, so that covers the electronics, and then the other thing I did was fix the steering on this thing. So one of the main problems with this truck is that when the suspension extends, the wheels kind of like would get positive camber, so they start out flat, but then as soon as they extended, they kind of go like this, which is really odd. And so I worked on fixing that. So a couple things I did with the front camber links. So the first thing you want to do is basically run the inside inside hole here on the bulkhead. So normally it's on the I guess the outside hole. It makes the link longer. You want to push that closer to the wheel and run that inside hole is what you normally call it. Maybe, I don't know if you call it inside or outside, but anyways, so yeah, move that to the hole out here, and then you got to shorten the link obviously to get the wheels just straight up and down, and then that'll actually fix that bowing out that tends to happen when the suspension extends. Helps it a little bit. You know, you still got some bowing, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. And then the other thing you want to do is basically raise up these links. So the stock ball studs are way too low, and so I don't really want to get into the whole geometry of this thing, but basically when you've got the arm like this, you really want the camber link also to be roughly parallel to that. So the arm is like that. The stock link is more like this, kind of pointing into mounting about the same spot as where the hinge pin mounts, and so you end up with like this triangle between the mounts of these two, the upper camber link mount and then the arm mount, and you end up with this triangle. Really what you want is both these things to be parallel, and then that actually is a little more optimal front roll center. So it actually lowers the roll center. It actually allows you to get a little more steering as you enter the corner, especially off power, and it also allows you to basically have tighter turning radius. So if you're doing little circles on, let's say, pavement or whatever, you'll have a much tighter turning circle. So I recommend doing that. And so the way to raise this up, the first thing you got to do is kind of shave down this little brace here on the front shock tower, because you need a little bit more clearance. I just took a hobby knife, or I could use a Dremel or a file or whatever, just to kind of give you a little more clearance there to raise that ball stud. And the second thing you want to do is get some taller ball studs. So I'm running a set of 10mm ball studs. I got that fit from TLR. So I happen to have a couple 10mm TLR ball studs lying around. So that gives you a little bit longer ball stud. And then I'm running 4mm of washers underneath. So you can kind of see that right there. There's little gray spacers underneath that ball stud. So raising that up, using the longer ball studs, gives you a little bit better geometry for the front suspension and will get you a little better steering as well. So that pretty much fixes the steering up front. Between the better servo, getting rid of that servo saver, and then these camber link changes, it steers quite a bit better on all conditions. So I think that's pretty much it for my improvements. So the buggy is working a lot better, or the stadium truck, what do you want to call this, drives quite nice now. And so hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to my channel. As always, hit the ad notifications, share with your friends, and look for more videos soon. Thanks for watching.